podcast features 4 professional idiots who share their insights and anecdotes. This podcast is intended for entertainment purposes only. This podcast represents the opinions of the guests and should not be taken as medical, legal, or professional advice.
Yay. All right, let me go back into my hidey hole.
You have a closet where you record or something, or?
Closet where he records, or a closet where Nicole keeps him when he's bad?
Or when I've been good.
No.
The good boy closet?
The good boy closet. Everyone knows about the good boy closet.
Yeah, of course, common knowledge.
Yeah, who hasn't heard about the good boy closet? I'm plugging in hacker voice. I'm in.
You're asking about the topic, Ben?
Yeah, was this the topic we chose before we decided to schedule?
I believe so. Protect yourself. I remember us talking about that.
Okay.
It's like things you should know for patients, and we could segue into things doctors should know.
What are you going to talk about?
Well, I had a few points to bring up. There's too much in a medical sense of like things you should know. If I went down the line of like, oh, you should recognize these serious signs of medical stuff. I mean, I guess we could. We talk about like fast and like strokes and stuff. Lord knows there's plenty of people who probably don't know what the signs of a stroke are. But that's a lot of stuff to just...
Like a cynical or like a realist route where, for example, I don't think most people know that you can fire your doctor and request someone else inpatient. I don't think most people know that. It's always not great, and I think it leads to more discussion or communication with the provider if you're not happy before you do that. But I don't think most people know that you can fire your doctor. I don't think that most people know that you can request, even if you're at a teaching hospital, you can request not to work a resident.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Like, if you don't want to be around learners, why did you go to a teaching hospital or an academic hospital?
I mean, I got brought to a teaching hospital after I got in my car accident, Dan. It's not like I chose there. It was just the closest.
Yeah. Fair enough.
To be fair, I was super down to have a bunch of doctors watch my arm get popped back into place, so that was fun.
Oof.
They were like, "Oh, like we don't see elbow dislocations like this very often. Can we bring in some med students?" I was like, "Yeah, bring them in."
Were you on the ketamine at that point?
No, not at that point. They just had me on a tiny bit of fentanyl at that point, but it wasn't enough to cloud my judgment. I was just like, "This is great.
Yeah, this is great. I don't feel a thing." Huh. Look at my elbow. It's a windshield wiper now.
See, like, I can't do morphine because when I had both of my surgeries, I have like severe anaphylactic reactions. But I've never had.
Ketamine was nuts. I had vivid visual hallucinations.
Yeah, I've heard ketamine's the good stuff. I mean, we give that to kids, and like, it doesn't. So I've done many joint resetting and like fracture reductions, and so in the children's hospitals, ketamine is often a big go-to, or at least what I had seen done. And the kids can still feel, like they obviously can feel what's going on, but there is nothing going on there. They're just kind of zonked out and eyes sort of glazed over.
There's the idea that they dissociate the memories.
Yeah, I guess so, because they're no longer forming memories at that point. There's no like cognitive function going on. They're watching TV in their head is basically how I attribute it to it.
That's pretty much what it was like. I don't remember anything that happened after they dosed me up until the moment when I started to wake up. And by that point, my arm was bandaged, and my dad and my now wife were there. I was like, "Oh, you guys weren't here earlier," and they're like, "We've been here for like 20 minutes."
Did they? I was gonna say the anterograde memory loss after ketamine is interesting too. Didn't get called out on anything or telling yourself in any way, did you? Because that's the funny part is when I hear
apparently I swore a lot.
Oh well, that'll do.
Apparently I was very sweary, and it pissed off the inmate who was in the bed next door.
Oh, jeez. Oh, God. Go in for a dislocated elbow, come out with a concussion. Good Lord.
He had the cops right next to him, and the cops were having a great time. So, you know.
Patrick!
I'm here.
You okay, buddy?
I was in the middle of playing The Last of Us. You and Sean are both texting me about doing two separate things at the same time.
You were playing the game?
What? No, I wasn't. I was I'm watching the show The Last of Us with Willow and Tara, and let time slip by, forgot about podcast. And while you were texting me and calling me, my son was texting me and calling me to do a raid at a gym in Wisconsin on
raid?
Pokemon Go.
Oh,
Pokemon?
I didn't know you still did Pokemon Go, Pat.
Sean hooked me back into it when he was here.
Oh, cool. Oh, that's right. He visited was it last week or 2 weeks ago? 2
weeks ago now.
Gotcha.
Do you not know the happenings of your brothers, Daniel?
I do, but the weeks blur together faster than you'd realize. I was in Ireland at the time, so I was busy doing other things. Yeah, no, I was off exploring the southern half of Ireland. Which, by the way, yes, whiskey and Guinness. Yeah, no, I got to run around the country child-free for a week, and it was very nice. And then we came back, and the little guy, I swear, grew like an inch and knew 50 more words, and every day is a new day, man.
You taught him any curse words yet?
Not intentionally.
Are there any unintentionally that he's learned?
So here's the thing. One of his favorite words to say is stuck, like S-T-U-C-K.
It sounds like stuck.
It sounds like duck most of the time when he says it. But then he'll say it in a way that sounds like another word. And we got to be careful about what we're saying around him. Not the best at enunciating for our, which is good for our sake, but kids are little sponges, man. You got to be really careful. Welcome back to Overqualified Idiots. If this is your first time tuning in, this is a podcast where a doctor, lawyer, pharmacist, and engineer come together to shoot the breeze, share stories, and give opinions. Today, we have a special episode. I am Dan Casey, MD, sports medicine specialist. I am joined by another doctor and two lawyers, natural enemies in the wild. So, I'm joined, I'll just go down the list. I am joined by Pat Casey, my brother, JD.
Hello.
Hello. Why are you British? Why?
Just today.
Just today. Just for today,
Yep.
you were British.
Yep.
I had to.
100 episodes.
I had to think really hard not to slip into an Irish accent after getting back from Ireland. There, I really had to focus on a British accent because when you hear it, or at least for me, when I hear it, I feel like I can do the accent. As you also just heard, I can do it. What?
Mm-hmm.
I can do it. Oh fuck! Now I'm splitting into.
No, you can't. Just move on.
God damn it! Shut up. All right, fine. As you've already heard, Dr. Ben is with us today.
Hello.
How you doing, Ben?
I'm good. I had a migraine the other day into the morning, so getting over that, but I have the day off.
No. Are you feeling better?
A little, yeah. I mean, I have
All right.
clinic, and then I get to transition to another month of nights. Yay!
Oh my god, I feel like every time I talk to you, you're on nights. I don't know how that's even possible. Well, I'm glad you're feeling better.
Like 6 months ago.
It feels like every time I've chatted with you, like, I'm on nights this next week. I'm like, God, I feel like that just happened. So I'm glad you're feeling better, and thanks for joining us today. Last and certainly not least is Alex K. JD.
Why, hello.
Welcome, man.
Hey, how's it going, man? Doing good, doing good.
Good. How is life, everyone?
Good.
There's going to be an awkward silence from all the stuff I cut out that we were talking
Mhm.
about that apparently I'm not allowed to talk about. But
Yeah, it's
small
more so I just prefer they're weird about stuff.
All right, then small talk. What do you have going on in your life, Alex?
Doing job interviews, just trying to get the first major position after graduating from law school, doing a lot of side work and contract stuff, but I want something full time, obviously. So, just that.
All right. And Patrick, small talk. Anything going on? Anything new? Anything exciting?
Oh, wow. Yeah. Hopefully resolving a case involving myself, and then I can actually talk about it. And then, other drama that exists.
This is
at
just
work.
the episode we're not allowed to talk about it.
Yeah, this is the episode of I can't really talk about it, but it's interesting. Someday, maybe I'll be able to talk about it, but just not today.
I have this.
It is a 5-year. This is a 5-year case, so.
I think I know about this one.
Yeah, you know what it is. What it is.
Someday we may talk about it on the podcast.
Yeah.
Or not. I don't know. I have this catalog of things PJ has told me because PJ actually has a lot of good stories for someone who never talks. And I have like 3 things he's told me about that he's like, well, let's just wait to see if that person gets fired first before we talk about that in a public forum. And I'm like, God damn it, that's such a good story though. Dr. Ben, what do you got going on in your world, man? Anything good? Okay, don't think too hard now.
I don't know. I mean, I have a few like posters that we're getting ready. I had a paper that was recently published with some friends in a radiology.
Nice.
That's cool, man. Congrats.
Yeah, congrats.
We've got a pretty rare case of necrotizing fasciitis of the breast. So.
Oh, what the hell?
Yeah.
That's
so
basically
necrotizing fasciitis of the breast. That sounds terrible.
That's what they classically refer to as like flesh-eating bacteria, even though it's not quite the case. But that's bad.
Very rare, and the way it presented was also very rare. So, kind of an interesting case from earlier in the year. So that was cool.
Are you presenting at any conferences?
Not yet. Myself and the group, like we have like the poster that we're doing for 2 poster sessions that is coming up. So we'll submit for those. But undetermined. I mean, the main author, she may decide to like submit it to a radiology conference, which I think would be pretty cool. But
Very nice.
We'll see.
Well, the only thing I've had going on is I work too much, and then I take vacations when I finally catch a break. I went to Ireland. I think I've talked about this, but it's the coolest trip I've ever been on. We basically saw the entire southern half of the island over the course of 8 or 9 days.
Oh, nice.
Did a road trip, which I will say this, driving on the left side of the road is not that big a deal.
What?
It's the same it's the same exact rules. It's just flipped. And if anything, it's easier because there's no confusion as far as like, obviously their right turns is across traffic, but you only go on an arrow. If it's in like a major city and they have light, you're at a traffic stop. It makes it really simple, really easy. You only go if you have an arrow. So there's no, who has the right of way? Turn in safety, make the judgment call. No, it's made for you. Just go when you're supposed to go. What I will say is that driving on the roads in Europe in general are terrifying because of how damn narrow they are. It's like driving in a bike lane. We got the smallest car we possibly could, and it still felt like we had like 6 inches from a brick or just rock wall, and then if a bus went by you, you just prayed you weren't going to like catch a side of it.
Like driving in Europe is terrifying because like I've driven in Germany and then I drove all over Iceland and like there's no bumpers like shielding you from the sides of like mountains most of the time. The roads are super narrow. People drive a lot better than I do because I'm not used to driving in like, tundra, icy like locations. But yeah.
It's great. I mean, in Ireland, it's raining all the time. Plus, we had one day where it snowed, and we're going like.
And you've never seen snow in your life, pretty much living in Arizona.
that's not far from the truth. Yeah, and we're going like 40 kilometers an hour, not very fast. And then somebody blows by us doing like 75 kilometers an hour, and we're like, oh, this is dangerous. Like then you can tell who's a native and who isn't real fast. And I learned something interesting. So they have these stickers on the back of their cars, N and L, the letters N and L. And I had to look it up because I kept seeing it. And it just says novice. It stands for novice and learner. So when you see those letters, you're basically driving behind a new driver. So that's like their,
student driver
decals. So, or it's just like, okay, you're a learner if you're a student driver. You're a novice if you're still learning how to drive in a city. So they have a qualification for people who are new to driving in Europe. Our rental car didn't have that. Probably should have, but we survived. We're here. Yeah, Ireland's awesome. People should definitely go. Ireland is experiencing a golden age in terms of cultural and economic renaissance from like the last 30 years. But that's not why
it sounds like those signs, the N and L, are a great way to know to protect yourself from those drivers.
What a segue! Oh, Alex,
people are good at dad jokes, and you're just like you got the segues.
Oh my god, it's so good. Every time you're on an episode, I love how you. All right, I'll collect.
Well, we got to direct ourselves from the chit chat to the meat of the issue at some point. I mean,
people.
Well, Dan just likes to hear the sound of his own voice. So you got to give him at least 10, 15 minutes.
Well, no, that's why I have to cut him off at the knees.
I'm sorry, I actually have something to say on a podcast, Patrick. God damn.
Hey, we're just all jealous because you're talking about what a good time you have, and the rest of us are like, no, it's fine, I guess.
Yeah, what a bunch of negative Nancys you three are. God, it's like you work or something. Anyways, so, yes.
Or don't, in my case.
Or don't, yeah. I don't know, man. The stress of job hunting is real, too, so I wouldn't take that away from you.
Oh, yes.
I don't remember what that feels like.
Hopefully you don't find out anytime soon, either. But...
Agreed.
Protecting
it's like being Wile E. Coyote and you run over the edge of the cliff and then you're just like, don't look down, don't look down, don't look down.
Just keep running and you'll stay in place. It's fine.
Yes. At some point you'll find cliff again.
Protecting yourself. Yeah, so I kind of wanted this to be like a things you should know episode, but that podcast already exists. Credit to them. It's a very good show. If you haven't listened to it, it's worth your time. But I wanted this to be sort of for patients, for clients, for people who find themselves in difficult situations. What are big things that we in our experience as professionals have seen where, God, people should just know this. People don't know this common thing or don't know this not so common bit of knowledge that would be really helpful. I'll start off just with a quick one, just because I feel like this is just like a quick, snap, fast tap. In the hospital, heaven forbid, you end up in the ER. You end up in an inpatient setting, and maybe you know what your insurance does for you in those settings. Maybe you don't have insurance. One of the things everyone should do anytime they basically get a hospital bill after a visit is ask for an itemized bill, because you'll get your better bill from before you even leave. You'll often discuss with finance essentially what you're going to look at for damages or what's owed. And if you ask for an itemized bill, I guarantee you the cost of your visit will magically go down, sometimes by as much as half. Now, did any of you know that before this?
I did not.
Okay.
It doesn't surprise me.
I always get an itemized bill, but...
Always get an itemized bill. I assume that's probably like one of those pieces of advice that's recommended for everything. It just reminds me of the joke of the plumber who hits a pipe and charges $500. It's like $1 to hit the pipe, $499 to know which one to hit. But in the medical setting, costs of supplies, services, tests, labs, etc., doctors' fees themselves, they're all inflated. There's no, as far as like what market value goes, hospitals will charge whatever they think they can charge. A bag of saline, which costs, I think I'm quoting this correctly, it's either $7 or $17 to produce, manufacture, or put out there. You'll get charged to the hospital setting for like $150, $250 for administration of a saline bag. And so as soon as you just ask for that bill, people's costs to them will go down by as much as half, which is obscene. So always ask for an itemized bill. That's kind of my first, this is what we're talking about. What stories, what information, what would you want your family, your friends, your loved ones to know about your work, about anything related to medicine or law, since we're only doctors and lawyers here? I'll let Alex, you said you had a couple stories we were talking about that you said would be good for this topic. I'm going to let you lead off.
So going from a client perspective, this is just from my limited experience working with clients. Every time that we want to actually initiate a client-attorney relationship with someone, and this is pretty common practice across the civil side of the industry, we will send you a letter that we generally call an engagement letter, and it will detail in that letter, here is everything that is the nature of this representation. We are going to represent you this much. We will do these things for you. Here are the parts of the bills that you will pay for. Here are the things that we're responsible for, etc. As far as patent law, it's usually joke's on you, the USPTO fees, you pay those. We don't, because that would be actually very silly if the attorneys paid the fees. We'd end up with a lot of fees.
I was going to say, how many fees are there, Alex?
If you just look up USPTO fee schedule online, there is a list that is hundreds and hundreds of items long that goes over all of the different fees that they can charge for every single aspect of a patent that you try to file. And it gets very expensive very quickly, especially with things like extensions of time and stuff like that. But my biggest advice to clients would be carefully read the engagement letter that you are sent. We can be held to that. It is a contract basically between us and you saying, here's what we agree to do for you and what we expect you to pay for it and those general things. If you read through that and you come across anything that's a big red flag that springs to mind is they're trying to waive liability for if they make a very big dumb mistake. That's not something that you should have to cover. There's some things in something that we'll probably talk about at some point in this episode called the Model Rules of Professional Conduct for Attorneys that says you can't try to waive negligence or otherwise malpractice in your contracts.
Oh my God, I can just imagine just being hey, if I do this and it's wrong and you get hurt, I'm not responsible. Oh my God, yeah. I can't imagine a world in which that would work in medicine ever.
People tried to do that for a while, apparently, and it was often enough that they had to put a rule that said, hey, attorneys, knock this shit off.
But you can't just give yourself indemnity forever.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing is that the rule isn't that you can't do it at all, but that if you're going to put something in there that says something along those lines, you have to draw the client's attention to it and advise them that it is advisable for them to seek additional counsel to determine whether or not they should sign that part or not. So you can still sign it.
Well, if you have to be advised by your lawyer that they need another lawyer to review your agreement, that should be a significant enough red flag that you need to find a different lawyer.
One would hope.
Well, that's good to know. It's good to know that some contracts still have weird ass loopholes. But at least it sounds like they're trying to make it more reasonable. Pat, this is a good segue because I know Alex has a good amount of content, and you were telling me something earlier. How do you find a good lawyer? And Alex, if you have anything to add to this, feel free to chime in too. But I can talk about finding doctors and that sort of thing, but I don't even know where to start to find a good lawyer, because driving around Phoenix, Lord knows there's a half a dozen billboards of various big name lawyers in town saying they're going to help you no matter the case or what have you, insert type of injury or car accident, what have you. We're going to get you money. So what would you tell people, Pat?
Well, I think when you're looking for a lawyer, oftentimes the best way to look for one is to talk to family or friends who may have used that type of lawyer, unless it's something that you're embarrassed about talking about. And then I would go on the internet and look for attorneys. But then what you also need to do is look at the state bar's disciplinary webpage and search for that lawyer to see if they've received some type of ethics discipline and for what.
So how does someone do that? You said, is there like a website for that?
Minnesota has one.
Almost
I
every
looked up an opposing
state bar.
counsel. Yeah, I looked up an opposing counsel and found public discipline against an opposing counsel in a case.
Oh God!
Just the other day, it took me like 30 seconds, but I know exactly what I'm looking for. But yeah, the state, Arizona State, board for attorneys, or I mean, it's like Alex is saying, it's the same in every state. So the other thing I would do is I would interview multiple lawyers that hold themselves out to be practitioners in that field and ask them what percentage of their cases are that area of law. Those are all good, really good questions, because I answer the, family law criminal defense question all the time. How much of your caseload's criminal defense? Well, roughly half. How much of your caseload's family law? Roughly half. They go hand in hand oftentimes, unfortunately, but they cross over. Yeah. So finding out what percentage of time is spent by that attorney practicing in the area of law that you're looking for a lawyer in, whether it be personal injury, criminal defense, family law, patent law. If they're not practicing patent law 100% of the time, you should find a different firm. But anyways, we can't get into every
most of them practice
area
a
of
little
law.
bit of trademark too.
Well, patent and trademark are the same. Stop it. Now you're just going to confuse people. Knock it off. Anyways. Yeah, now you're just arguing like a lawyer. Stop it. We're talking to normal people, and that's the other thing. You need to have a lawyer that talks to you like you're a 4-year-old. And I don't mean that as an affront. I mean that they use normal words to describe the process. So what I'll do is I'll say, here's the legal term. You don't need to remember that, but here's what this really means. This is what this really means. This is really what's going to happen here. So then because sometimes in criminal cases, if we're, putting things on the record and they have to ask questions of my clients will then just repeat what I said in regular terms. And yeah, I mean, the judges know that I know how to explain things to my clients so that they understand, even if they're not the most sophisticated person on the planet. And, most of my clients are first time involved in this process, whether it's a divorce, custody case, or a criminal charge. So you want a lawyer that can explain it to you like you don't know what the heck is going on, but not in a condescending, just trust me kind of way. So that's important. And I always suggest, even to the people that come to my office, it's like, well, if you don't like what you're hearing from what I'm saying, that's fine. Lawyers are a dime a dozen, throw a rock, hit a lawyer. Go talk to a different attorney and get a second opinion. But you want to do two things. You want to interview more than one attorney. You want to, go with the person that you encounter that you feel comfortable with, that you trust. You don't have to like them, because trust me, lawyers are not likable people, but you don't have to like them.
I know a few. I can agree.
But you have to trust them, and you have to feel like they're going to do what's best for you, even if it's not exactly what you want. So those are a number of the things that I would tell people to look for going out and talking to an attorney. That way you protect yourself, because what I often find is people go talk to that first lawyer, hire them because they don't know any better, and then 6 months, 9 months later, fire that lawyer, come to my office, hire me, and in the hopes that I can fix what prior counsel has terribly, horribly screwed up in their file and spent thousands of dollars doing and getting them nowhere. So yeah, that happens. Or come back 5 years later after somebody has messed something up. Who knows? I mean, I fixed more problems over 20 years of things that other attorneys have done than I can really, that I could really talk about here in one podcast.
Yeah, fair enough.
It is so important when you hire an attorney, because you're trusting that person. And so Those are just the kind of that's the short version of it, honestly, and that was 5 minutes. So
I love it. No, it's hard not to echo. I mean, I had things I wanted to talk about, but I feel like you hit the nail on the head for a lot of things in terms of medicine too. Because when you go to a clinician, and I mean, I'm going to talk about the outpatient setting. I'm going to talk about going to see a doctor in a clinic. You said exactly what I was going to say. Talk to somebody who talks to you like a person. Talk to somebody, a doctor who talks to you like they're explaining it to their best friend or explaining it to a family member. Because if they're explaining it to you like you have a doctorate, well, why are you there to begin with except to get a script maybe? Because most people aren't going to understand anything in medicalese, and I'm assuming in legalese also. As far as doctor shopping, it's hard for me to make a recommendation because there's so many resources and so many Yelps and Google reviews of different physicians. So to backpack on what you said even further, friends, family members, people who make recommendations, word of mouth referrals are how I have gotten obscenely busy. In fact, my patients now, I think I'm booked out 5 weeks, are complaining because they can't get into me. And I say, I'm sorry, I've been here for a year. People learned who I am, and everyone tells their friends to come see me. So it's a good problem to have for me, but that's basically what you want to look for, is a physician who comes with word of mouth, references, referrals, and talks to you like a person, talks to you like a human, and not like a doctor. But
sounds like you need a minion. You need another doctor that can handle that overflow work.
Well,
but what do I know?
I'm very, very busy. I only work 4 days a week, and I still feel like I'm working 5. But my understanding is they may very well, because of how busy I've gotten, how successful I've been doing, they may even hire another sports physician for our location. So I'm thrilled to hear that. In the meantime, I would love a scribe or an athletic trainer or any minion, like you said, to help me stop from drowning. But good problems to have, good things to stay busy. Ben, I wanted to hear from you. What information, because I've talked a tiny bit about outpatient stuff. I don't want to take up a lot of time. I talk too much and like the sound of my voice too much. What inpatient hospital type recommendations, information would you recommend to the general public?
I don't know. I think that's a difficult one because, again, I think most people would want to know more about like the business side, but I think like some important things that I think like unfortunately not every doctor wants to hear, but I think that's important for patients to realize is the fact that like technically, so like let's say you get admitted to the hospital and you're being managed for, let's say, high blood pressure, diabetes, or some other kind of thing. You are assigned a team and you have a doctor and they'll see you every day. But let's say for some reason, you and the doctor aren't getting along. You feel like your voice isn't being heard. You feel like there's some other issues that are more concerning that you feel like can't be worked out. First and foremost, I would always say, like, I think that you should talk to the individual, figure out where the disconnect is, because I think a lot of times most issues can be resolved with communication, which, funny enough, not everyone is really good at, especially in the medical world. So I would actually recommend communicating. But at the end of the day, let's say that just things aren't working for whatever reason. You can actually fire that doctor and they will have to assign you another physician. I have, in my career, only seen this happen one other time, unfortunately. And I think it was for a complete misunderstanding how it happened, not with myself, but with a mentor. And probably was for the best, unfortunately, that they were seen by someone else, and just because of how it impacted the physician afterwards. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, don't think that you don't have rights as a patient. And I think that's one of the biggest things. I always tell people to advocate for themselves, communicate what their needs are, because oftentimes we neglect things or we miss things that may be pertinent to patient care. So I think it's just always important to be communicating, because you never know what can come from it.
No, I think it's great advice. I have also only seen a team fired on one occasion, I believe. And it was really just due to, it was poor communication. It was like team goals not lining up with patient goals. And so I had to backpack on what you said, is that patients should be their own advocates when they feel like they're not being too. I think there are patient advocates in the hospital or in most hospital settings who are literally just a person, some type of representative who is designated to be a liaison for the patient and to communicate their rights and speak up for them and say this is what the patient is concerned about and try to be that middleman in a lot of situations. But yeah, the one time I saw it was just that it was a sad case. It was a case where a patient had pretty end stage cancer, and the family was from a cultural background where you don't give up. You don't do, like, hospice and palliative was seen as giving up. And so when you have those really difficult discussions, they felt that and there was a language barrier too. So even with a translator, those are hard, even without a translator, those are hard conversations to have. So those are tough situations, and communicating and making sure that you're advocating for yourself is also a big thing I would backpack on with that. But
and
no, it's
going
good
off
to
of
know.
also, I think I think you need to look at the reverse also, that you as a physician, whether you're a resident, you're remembering that you can fire the patient as well.
Yeah, that's
there
tougher.
are bigger stipulations, of course, with that, and a lot more hoops to go through. But yeah.
It's good for the patients because we're speaking to, I think, most people as patients.
Yeah.
That basically, yes, you can fire your doctor in a hospital setting. You can ask for a new doctor if you feel like you're not being represented well. You can fire any outpatient doctor for any, basically if you don't feel like you're being listened to, if you don't feel like they care or doing a good job. Doctors firing patients, we obviously have responsibilities. We have codes to hold ourselves to. So that is tougher. Patients basically have to do very, very egregious things. I have fired 2 in 5 years. One for, basically threatening me with harm, and another for non-compliance, which is actually a much harder thing to do. So, but that's, I guess, more of a piece of advice for other doctors, especially younger doctors who may not know that you can fire a patient. You just need to do so. I think the numbers are like they have 3 months, and this might be organization dependent, I'm not sure. But they basically, I think the minimum from like AMA, from the American Medical Association, is like you got to give them 30 days to find a new doctor.
Yes.
My organization.
Well, so like the thing is, you have to supply like references to other locations, and they have at least like 30 days, I believe, of still seeing you.
Yeah, you've got to give them options. You can't just leave someone out in the wind and be like, good luck. It's only your health and your life and well-being. No, and our organization, I think, actually gives people 3 months. So that's more of like the physician side of things, and that's a very difficult thing to do because you have to uphold those sort of standards. But yeah, no, my 2 situations were well warranted. I think that's the only time I've been threatened before. But the non-compliance one was ridiculous. The non-compliance was like, we had 6 appointments, and every appointment he was like, yeah, I didn't do that thing you asked me to do. Well, why not? I just didn't want to. Dude had like a broken arm and was like going on his like off-roading on an ATV. And it's like, I said you couldn't go back to work. He's like a pretty blue-collar day laborer type worker. He's like, oh, I can raise my arm up to like shoulder height. I can lift things. I can do stuff. Like, it's not going to heal properly. You can't do that.
God.
Yeah, so there are times where I'm like, man, I'm dumb. God, why did I do that? That was dumb. And then sometimes someone comes along to reassure me I'm actually doing okay. Alex, I wanted to hear more from you. I feel like I kind of cut you off there.
You're fine.
No, that you had more to say. You got more stories, I feel like. You had some cases you were telling me about.
I do have some cases. And some of this, I think, is piggybacking on some of what you were talking about earlier of making sure that you're advocating for yourself. A lot of people sometimes, at least this has been my feeling when I've been around doctors sometimes, and in the past when I was around lawyers sometimes, I feel like, oh, these people are so much smarter than me. They clearly know exactly what's going on. Pro tip, sometimes we don't know all the facts of your case as well as you do, or all the facts of what's going on as well as you do. And reminding us, even if it feels like, am I reminding them of something they already know? Just do it, because it's fine. The most that'll happen is we'll be like, oh yeah, we already know that. Here's the thing we're doing about that. Examples of cases where you might want to, like, yell at your lawyer or things like that.
Speak too sternly. Or yell. I don't know. That works too, I guess.
This is more of a yell because you gotta wake this guy up. There's some famous cases in the legal profession of an attorney who fell asleep in the middle of trial and like was asleep for substantial portions of trial.
I'm sorry. How substantial? How do you how?
A lot.
Like all of it?
Almost all of it was the actual facts of it, like
Oh my
consistently
God.
for multiple days of while they were in trial.
Was this person old or on substances? What? How does that happen?
That wasn't included in the facts of the case. Yeah, I didn't see that part in the case of whether he was on any substances. It's possible. I mean, substance abuse is a problem in the attorney industry, apparently, but
I can tell you that I've never fallen asleep during a trial.
I was like,
carry on.
How would I fall asleep in clinic? I don't even know how that would happen. Okay, so that's like the buildup. That's like the whole like crescendo of your job. Anyways, all right, go ahead.
Oh yeah. But this person was lucky because when it got appealed, it was like, well, defendants have what's called a Sixth Amendment right to counsel. And, if your attorney is asleep, you haven't had a right to counsel. You just haven't had counsel for part of this trial.
And so that got it alone while he gets his beauty sleep.
Yeah. So that defendant was lucky in that sense that it got flipped back and he got to go to trial again. But pro tip, you usually don't get to go back to trial unless it's for a very good reason. They're very touchy about that stuff. The standard from that case is that they have to be, let's see here, asleep for a substantial portion of the trial. So if your attorney is, falling asleep for like a couple of minutes at a time, they might let that go through, even if the attorney failed to object to something pretty important as they were going. So, kick your attorney under the table, wake them up, make sure they're, advocating for you and actually doing their job.
I love that the golden standard
amount of time, though. Like, do they delineate that or like define what substantial amount of time is? Like, can I take a 5-minute eyeball?
No.
It's not going to be a hard and fast like range.
No. It's going to be a fact-driven analysis, like just about every other constitutional case that exists.
Yeah.
That's wild to me that the gold standard is not immediately your counsel must be conscious.
Yeah.
So that's not just a hard and fast rule. It's like, I got some leeway. We could do this little gray zone. He needs some snooze. He's good.
Well, Alex points out the most important thing is, especially in jury trials, judges are really remiss to overturn cases unless there's new exculpatory evidence or jury misconduct or your attorney's so high on meth that he doesn't know where he is. So there it is.
If we violate too much of your, basic civil rights, we'll redo, but not too much though, just a little.
I mean, I think the theory is that if you have people able to get a new trial for relatively low bars, then we're going to have repeat trials all the time. And if you have too many of them, then the courts are already overfilled as it is. Like, there's too much for too little courts.
No, I feel that. I mean, access in healthcare is obviously its whole issue. So I could see the whole. We don't have a redo system in medicine. It's just like, okay, I'll schedule a new appointment to go over this issue again, and that's how follow-ups work. So, that's interesting to me. God, I'm just now at this point. I just want to hear more of what you have to say.
There's one more
you have more.
I have one more story that is equally horrifying in many ways, I would say. So I don't think I need to say this. I would assume most clients, if this happened, would be like, I'm going to find a different attorney. Your attorney's not allowed to make a pass at you. Strangely enough.
Oh,
wow. No.
Yeah. So
that was a thing that used to happen often enough that they had to put a specific rule in to say, probably don't want attorneys and clients sleeping together. That might create a conflict of interest or other problems.
Many.
My God. First two things they taught us in law school. Don't fuck your clients and don't fuck with your clients' money. There you go. That's yeah.
Those are the big ones.
That took you that many years to learn those two?
No, it's the first thing. First thing.
Okay.
Anyways,
I heard only thing. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I think in medicine we have the same thing, but it's like, I actually think there's rules, and correct me, Ben, if you remember, you can't engage in a relationship with a patient who you have seen in a medical setting for a year. I believe that's what the rule is. If you had somebody come in your office, they're a patient, and there is a connection or whatever, that you have to wait a year before you can consider dating them. Now, I don't know how people enforce that, but I think that's a thing.
I don't think it's a year. I'm like double checking. Like I think
6 months.
most of the time it's like 6 months. Some people will say it's a year.
Maybe I memorized
So
something from it.
the other thing is like I know like the general like medical council had like released some guidelines and AMA as well that you need to just end your physician-patient relationship. However, there is a caveat, and that's with psychiatrists are never allowed to.
That makes sense.
That's a good reason.
Because of the fact of the delicate
Yeah.
social boundaries that they approached during that relationship. So
Right. Yeah, so just a quick Google says 6 to 12 months, so that doesn't even answer the question.
It probably varies by jurisdiction.
Google doctoring, that's the way to go, right?
Should err on the side of just don't date your patients ever.
That's probably very wise.
Generally,
advice.
don't fuck your clients.
Yeah, good idea.
Here's the
Literally
case
and
example from the DC bar. There was apparently this happened in Michigan, so this was a reciprocal admonition and problem with this. They had to publicly censure this person. So keep in mind, this person didn't actually get disbarred. They can still practice as an attorney. They were just publicly censured for this behavior. So you can find online everything about what this person did. So this was not so much a client as an obligation that this person had. This particular woman was appointed to be an attorney to oversee compliance with something called a consent decree that was levied against the city of Detroit in the early 2000s. And apparently, this attorney, who was meant to remain neutral and independent from the parties, had, in quotes, undisclosed and personal communications with the mayor at the time, who was Mayor Kwame Kilpatrick, and intimate contact with the former mayor in early 2004. So basically, this was the polite way for the DC bar to say, yeah, they were dating and fucking, and probably don't do that when you need to be an independent third party neutral to make sure they're following the rules of a fucking court order, guys.
Didn't think we had to spell that one out for you.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And they got mad at her for it and publicly aired that dirty laundry as her punishment as a public censure.
I was about to say, it's interesting they didn't actually, there wasn't a punitive action per se. They literally shamed this person in a public setting. Yeah, it in itself is a public punishment, but still.
Yeah, usually they put them, sometimes they'll suspend them for a short period of time, or sometimes they'll put them on, they'll make them be supervised for a year, 2 years as part of the sanction. It just depends.
And this was not Michigan. The bar that I'm looking at is DC. Michigan is where it happened. So Michigan might have taken additional steps against her, but she had a bar licensure before DC, and they just censured her.
Yeah, they just published on her DC license. She had a Michigan license, and that's probably where she got the punishment.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but they definitely didn't disbar her. So.
Sounds like good advice for attorneys, and probably good advice for clients to also not pursue those avenues. That you generally want to keep professional relationships professional. I do have stories. They're not my stories, just stories of colleagues who I don't know why this needs to be said, but I have a public forum now. I'm going to say it. Don't hit on your doctor. Don't make a pass at anyone in a professional setting. That's not why they're there.
Or your lawyer.
But Dan, what if they're really, really hot?
Your client, don't do it. Don't let the intrusive thoughts win. Just stop. Oh God. All right. Yeah. So that's my big piece of advice. Go to a doctor. Don't hit on them. But I don't know, man. There's some interesting people out there. I think I have one more thing. I wanted to give the floor to more people, though. Anybody else got anything else?
I mean, are we?
Go
ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, as far as like a couple things that people probably don't know about, I feel like it's easier to hire a lawyer or fire a lawyer than it is to do the same with a doctor, because of the limits that insurance has on who you can go see for certain things,
Yeah.
as opposed to the lack of limits as an attorney, just a contrast. And the other thing I wanted to say is, there are criminal defense attorneys that are practicing privately, at least in the state of Minnesota, and I think there are similar rules in other states. We can't fire our clients. We have to ask the court permission to fire our clients.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because of how impactful the case is. In any other civil matter, as long as you don't fire the client on the eve of trial, so to speak, or to what they call, the term is a critical stage. It's weasel words, like asleep for a substantial part of the trial. At a critical stage. What is that? What does that even mean?
Weasel
Or something
words? That sounds
so
like all
against their
illegal.
rights.
Yeah, well, right. That's how my law school professors described some of these terms of art, because it's all fact-driven analysis. It's just you have to remember what the weasel words are. But yeah, it's a critical stage. In civil cases, which basically means as long as you're not on the eve of trial or eve of an important hearing, you can dump your client whenever you want. And there's plenty of reasons why I've walked away from cases that don't relate to not being paid. And then the criminal one, I have to get permission from the court, and that one's a very challenging one. I've only been released from a very small percentage of cases, even though the client and I clearly did not see eye to eye on how the matter should progress. But it's the pitfalls of that practice. That's all I wanted to add.
Yeah, I guess my sort of tidbit that I wanted to add, just because you brought up a really good point, it's just a good segue for me. God, you guys are good at this. Know your insurance. And I know that seems like a generic kind of useless statement, but know what a deductible is, know what a copay is, know why these things are in place. Your deductible is what you owe your insurance before they'll start paying, and then know what percentage they'll pay, know what the percentage they'll pay for various services. And then know if you have like an HMO or a PPO, where you can go, who you can see, if they're covered or not. It gets a little more dicey when it comes to like emergency situations, but if you have an understanding of your insurance, and the unfortunate thing is you probably will have bad experiences where you go to a doctor's office and you have $100 copay and they're all shoulders, like, I don't know what's wrong with you, or I don't know what I can do for you. Pat, you kind of already talked about the element of like really good doctor shopping, or in your case, lawyer shopping. I don't want to backpack too much off that, but your money and your time is valuable. So know what is going to be your share, and know when your insurance is actually going to help you out. Because insurance companies are the devil. They are. For-profit medicine is basically an evil in this society, as far as I'm concerned, because people's health and wellness it's a profit-driven market. They want to take your money and then not pay it for anything. That is I don't care what their mission statements are. They don't see you as a person to care for. They see you as a dollar bill that's coming in every month with your premiums, and they don't want to pay out if they can help it, and they will do everything and anything they can to not do it. I would say
the question they're really asking you is, how much is your life worth?
Exactly, and it's funny because you can't put a dollar sign on it. You can't put a dollar amount to quality of life, but they will, and they will tell you this is how much it costs, and know what that number is going to be. And this is just a small one, just because I feel like there's a name for this effect. When you see something, you learn about something, and then you see it everywhere. I can't remember what it's called, but that's basically why I'm bringing this point up. Is just because your doctor orders something, or orders a medicine, orders a lab, orders imaging, does not mean your insurance will ever pay for it. Sometimes they will, and in many instances, as long as it's indicated and justified, they will. But sometimes your insurance will just say no, because fuck you. That's why.
Which brings up the other thing. You don't necessarily need, while I'm not trying to create a whole other segment where, you shouldn't trust what your doctor's ordering. Do you necessarily need a vitamin D level? There's a lot of data that says you don't need vitamin D levels, and people just order it, and it's an expensive test. Yeah, so when someone says, hey, like, I want to order these tests, or I want to order these vaccines for you, You as the patient, remember, you have autonomy. And that's where, like, in my discussions with my patients, and I'm not sure how you kind of handle it, because I think you're kind of out of the, you're ordering more images, maybe not as many labs nowadays, but I always say, hey, this is my plan. This is why I want to order these things. And especially for people with vaccines, the very touchy topic, but not everyone trusts them. We won't get into the whole shebang, but I always offer, hey, would you like to get these vaccines today? These are what they're for. I would suggest you get them because you're behind. However, would you want them today, or do you want to defer them until our next visit and we talk about it again? It gives them the opportunity to have that autonomy. So, I mean, do you need? It's just a matter of remembering that issue for the ride.
Bader-Meinhof phenomenon. Thank you, Alex. You said that in the Discord. I was really
autonomy means you get to choose.
Recency bias.
It's your choice. Yeah. Autonomy.
Yeah, and that's that. I feel like a lot of people go to the doctor, and this happens to me all the time, Ben. I don't know your experience. Well, you're the doctor. You tell me what I need. Like, okay.
Oh, I mean,
yeah, all the time. I can give a recommendation, but there's very few life-threatening instances where I'm like, this is what you need to do. And I think that's more just the nature of my field. And you brought up a good point, Ben. I'm really not ordering labs very often. It's very, very infrequent. But if anything, I spend more time arguing against a therapeutic MRI. I spend a lot of time telling patients, no, you really don't need this. This is what you need to do if you want your pain to go away. And that's a whole discussion in and of itself. But when I say you need an MRI, you need an MRI, and your insurance needs to pay for it. So that brings me to the whole absolute shit show that is prior auths, appeals, and peer-to-peers. Not to turn this into too much of a classroom segment.
Yeah, this is starting to take a little bit of a left turn, but
it just gets to be there's too much in the healthcare system to navigate. So my whole bit is just know your insurance, know what it's going to do, know what it won't do, and what you are responsible for or they'll expect you to be.
Something else I'll say about the fact of like labs we talked about for patients or other things is understanding, at least this is like for those that have children. There are things called the well child visits, which is kind of like for the adults, your yearly exam, right? You have your well child visits maybe right after you're born from leaving the hospital, 2-week visit, month visit, so on and so forth. And the whole point of those is when we're trying to check on if you're meeting your developmental milestones. And usually at most of these visits, you get vaccines or other such things. Right. The point that I wanted to get to is that at some of these other well child visits, like let's say, for example, you did your 6-month visit, and you weren't able to get the vaccines or something, you can come in for what is called, for most places, most locations will do this in the outpatient setting, what's called a nurse visit.
Oh, yeah.
And what I try and say about that is, again, I'm a huge advocate for when I'm working with my patients where it's like, okay, you just had a well child check, let's say a month ago, you aren't due for one, and I can't also bill you for one. Why are you coming? Why did you get scheduled for a regular visit? And then that's where most of the time, if I have nothing to do and they accidentally got scheduled, this happens at one of the clinic sites all the time. A patient will get scheduled. They have no clue why they're there, why they brought their kid. And again, that's a lot of miscommunication on the physician and the clinic part. However, the point is that understanding that but visits can be billed for different things. And if you don't have a problem visit, make sure you tell your physician, or make sure you tell the clinic staff that, hey, I'm just here to get my blood pressure checked, or hey, I'm just here to get vaccines. Because in turn, you won't get billed as much. Instead of, there's some people who I believe unfortunately take advantage of it, and hey, you're coming in just for vaccines, but I'm going to talk about these other things also so I can bill you at a higher rate, which is completely taking advantage of the system.
That's unethical and completely, it's not supposed to happen, but it does. And that's what like a for-profit medical system will drive for. Because then when people are in your office, I mean, I'm compelled. I feel like I want to do something for the patient. And sometimes the answer is just reassurance. But then there's also the flip side to what you're saying, Ben. Sometimes you don't need to see me. Sometimes you don't need to see a doctor for these things. So, there are a lot of people that want to see me, and me doing vaccines is not a real big reason to take up my time, which is inevitably somebody else's appointment time. I think it's kind of what you're trying to say, is that basically a nurse visit's a really valuable tool. And it's a really good thing for checkups like blood pressures, blood thinner monitoring, like Coumadin Clinic and vaccines. And that's a resource people, I don't think I even knew about that till I was in med school, that a nurse visit was even a thing. So I think that's something people should know.
Just something you guys were saying regarding, who's the decision maker. The client and the patient are the decision maker, not the doctors or the lawyers. We're not substitute decision makers. And that's the worst phrase that I hear, which is, well, we'll just go with whatever you say. I'm like, no, this is not how we do this. I'm not. I'm sitting in the front seat or the first seat in the bus. You're driving. I'm just giving you advice on which turns to take. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the same thing for doctors. They're giving you advice on what approaches to take, and there may be multiple different concurrent planning that occurs in any given situation, and it's just like, unfortunately, it's your life and you have to decide. I mean, I know that's rough, but you got to decide how your life is going to go, and based on good advice, hopefully.
Yeah. And I think that's what we try to communicate is that. Sorry, Alex, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, it's not my knee, it's not my shoulder, it's your pain. I can't feel your pain, but here's what I would do, and here's what the evidence shows, and this is what my recommendation is. Patients, I don't know. I feel like I take care of a very specific demographic. I don't know if you've had experiences where clients in your field like that, don't like that. I feel like I actually get a lot of pushback in terms of like, but you're the doctor, you're the one who's supposed to tell me what to do, because I take care of a more close to a retirement community. So the average age of my patients is much higher, and that autonomy is not something that's stressed, and I don't feel like people either are used to or know very much about. So, but I 100% agree with you. Sorry, Alex, I'll let you go.
Yeah, I mean, kind of jumping off that a little bit as well is when I've had a couple of clients that have basically turned that around and said, well, what do you recommend about this? And the thing that I've had some amount of success with, and Pat, let me know if this is something that you've had problems with, is looking at the circumstance and asking them, well, what are the things that you care about in terms of this representation? Do you care about this getting done quickly? Do you care about it not costing you a lot? Do you care about it being really, really enforceable? Like, what are the aspects of your representation? Like, what are your goals? And I think that's where we're getting at, what is the patient's goal outcome for the medical care or for a client? What's your goal of representation, and what can we do to get you closer to that goal? And then just advising them, well, if you want to get closer to the goal, here are the potential options that get you closer to that, and still making them make the choice, but at least laying it out more clearly for them.
I think that it's easier in my practice, having done it for so long and having a finite amount of possible outcomes in cases, that getting to what the client wants is easy for me. I might be able to extrapolate everything within 4 or 5 minutes. But in a criminal case, it's easy. People want to avoid convictions. They want to avoid jail time, adverse consequences, period. I mean, everybody's worried about going to jail, no matter how minor the offense is. So you just got to allay their fears and, hear their story and, try to reach a resolution or try the case. Family laws, there's, a finite amount of things that could happen. And, the more complex the cases, the more possibilities. But that aspect of my practice isn't as much as just reality testing people. And if people's realities and desires are so out of line with what their situation is, I'm brutally honest with them that maybe we're not the right fit. And you can assess that within a 5 or 10 minute phone call. And for me, because some people have unrealistic expectations, and I say, I don't think that's possible. And, if you want to talk to another lawyer, that's great, but here's more likely what you can expect based on the information you've provided. So,
yeah, that's a whole rabbit hole of unrealistic expectations that I do not want to go down right now, because we are close to time. So if anybody has any last minute tidbits or summarizations, or even just a funny anecdote, I think we're going to bring this episode to a close here real fast.
It's dinner time, man. Let's wrap this up.
Bring them a supper. All right. Well, I think in summarization, then, it's basically realize what your rights are, realize that you have rights, realize that you are autonomous and have a lot more say in things. And then, do your research as far as whether it's finding a doctor or a lawyer. Thank you guys for being here. It's been a while since we've gotten to record, so I'm happy we're getting back into it. And anybody got anything less to say?
I don't know. I think it's just, again, you have the power. I think in a lot of these settings, you need to look at like marginalized groups and other kinds of things. But I think just re-emphasizing the fact that like, use your voice. I think it can be pretty hard to take that stand and stand up for yourself and for your rights and make it known that, hey, I want my lawyer to listen to me. I want my doctor to listen to me. I want my person who's supposed to be in my corner listening to what my actual needs are. I think it takes a lot of power, and I think it takes a lot of will to actually take that first step forward. But just remembering, that you are allowed that privilege.
Well said. I think that's a good thing, a good note to end on. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in, listening along. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed it. Follow, subscribe on all major podcast platforms. Like, download the episodes to show your support. And we will be back again next Sunday with another episode. Until then, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Mhm.